Congresso, please take the seats. Congresso team.
Hello.
Yes. There is an announcement, teachers. The outstation school escort teachers to return the room allotment letter to Joshua sir near the reception area. I repeat, please return the room allotment letter to Joshua sir. Only the outstation school.
Honorable member, honorable speaker, sir.
I welcome you all to the 35th session of the Youth Parliament, and I hope this session will be a fruitful one. We sit out today to deliberate the important matters concerning the nation. Today, the first item in the agenda is the oath or affirmation by the newly elected members. Member to take oath or affirmation, Secretary General, please.
Srimati Ashvi, who stands elected from the Kanpur constituency of Uttar Pradesh, will now be taking oath or affirmation. Ma'am, do you want to take oath or affirmation? In which language do you want to take the oath?
मैं आश्वी इस युवा संसद के निचले सदन की सदस्य निर्वाचित होने के उपलक्ष्य में ईश्वर की शपथ लेती हूँ कि मैं विधि द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूँगी। मैं भारत की प्रभुता और अखंडता अक्षुण्ण रखूँगी तथा मैं अपने उस कर्तव्य का निष्ठापूर्वक निर्वहन करूँगी जिसका दायित्व मैं ग्रहण करने वाली हूँ।
Shri Kumarya, who stands elected from the Bangalore constituency of Karnataka, will now be taking oath or affirmation. Sir, do you want to take oath or affirmation? In which language do you want to take the oath?
ಕುಮಾರ್ಯ ಎಂಬುವ ಹೆಸರಿನವನಾದ ನಾನು ಈ ಯುವ ಸಂಸತ್ತಿಗೆ ಚುನಾಯಿತನಾಗಿ ನೇಮಕಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ನಾನು ನಿಜವಾಗಿಯೂ ನಿಯಮದಂತೆ ಸ್ಥಾಪಿಸಲ್ಪಟ್ಟ ಸಂವಿಧಾನಕ್ಕೆ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ರಾಜನಿಯಮದಂತೆ ಅದರ ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠತೆ ಮತ್ತು ಸಮಗ್ರತೆಯನ್ನು ಕಾಪಾಡುವುದರ ಮೂಲಕ ಮತ್ತು ಸತ್ಯನಿಷ್ಠೆಯಿಂದ ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಹಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ ಎಂದು ದೇವರ ಹೆಸರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಮಾಣವನ್ನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೇನೆ.
Honorable members, it is with profound sorrow that I have to inform about the sad demise of our colleague, Srimati Mona Solanki, who was an extraordinary parliamentarian and a prolific orator. She was the member of National Institute for Public Cooperation and Child Development, Rashtriya Mahila Kosh, in the task force related to women and child development. Throughout her life, she voiced her concerns for rights of a girl child and firmly believed that empowering women through entrepreneurship is the only solution to their woes. In her death, the nation has lost a sagacious stateswoman, erudite scholar, champion of women's rights, and a passionate social worker. She passed away on July 28, 2024.
To pay my tribute to Srimati Mona Solanki, whose untimely departure has left one and all sorrowful. She was a woman of strong forms of action who saw emancipation of rural women folk only through education and entrepreneurship. Her message continues through her writings, which exhorted women folk to lead and then to be led, and contributed to the national product in the national weekly Stri Udhyami. I should like to extend my deepest condolences to her family.
आदरणीय महोदय, मैं आप एवं संसद के नेता द्वारा अर्पित श्रद्धांजलि में स्वयं को संयोजित करती हूँ। श्रीमती मोना सोलंकी महिलाओं के अधिकारों की मजबूत समर्थक रही हैं। वे एक सौहार्दपूर्ण व्यक्ति थीं जिन्होंने नारी सशक्तिकरण को साकार करने के लिए और उसकी वास्तविकता को कायम रखने के लिए अथक प्रयास किए। उन्होंने हमारे समाज को परेशान करने वाले सामाजिक मुद्दों से निपटने के लिए समर्थन भी हासिल किया। उनका जीवन हमारे लिए संदेशात्मक रहेगा। जीवन मिलना भाग्य पर निर्भर है, मृत्यु आना समय पर निर्भर है, लेकिन मृत्यु के बाद भी लोगों के दिलों पर जीना आपके कर्मों पर निर्भर है। इन्हीं पंक्तियों को सार्थक करते हुए वे हमारे लिए एक प्रेरणादायक स्रोत बनकर रहेंगे। भगवान उनकी अमर आत्मा को शांति प्रदान करें तथा उनके परिवार को साहस प्रदान करें। मैं उनके शोक संतृप्त परिवार के लिए संवेदनाएं भेजने में अपने और अपनी पार्टी को शामिल करना चाहूँगी।
We deeply mourn the loss, and I'm sure the House will join me in conveying our condolences to the bereaved family. The House will now stand in silence for a short while as a mark of respect to the memory of the departed.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I have pleasure in introducing to you and through you to the House, my colleagues, the new ministers. Shri Lalit, Minister of Corporate Affairs. Shrimati Harshita, Minister for Food Processing Industries.
Now, the question hour starts. Question number 101, Ms. Priha, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, thank you. Will the Minister for Social Justice be pleased to state, could the Minister provide an update on the government's plan to address the rising inequalities in social services and support system, particularly in the light of recent economical challenges affecting vulnerable communities?
Honorable Minister for Social Justice and Empowerment, Ms. Yashri, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, the initiatives taken by the government has attaining the objective of social justice and reducing the impact on the vulnerable communities. To give clarity to the above initiatives, programs such as Ayushman Bharat aims to provide health insurance coverage of up to ₹5 lakh per family per year for secondary and tertiary care hospitalization. This scheme particularly benefits vulnerable communities by reducing financial barriers to healthcare access. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana scheme aims to provide affordable housing to urban and rural poor households by March 2025. By 2023, over 1.13 crore houses were sanctioned under the scheme, over 70 lakh houses completed and delivered. The Pradhan Mantri Development Mission will be launched to improve the social economic conditions of the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. This mission will saturate PVTJ habitation and provide families with basic facilities such as clean drinking water and sanitation, safe housing, health and nutrition, road and telecom connectivity, improved access to education and sustainable livelihood opportunities. The government will provide an amount of rupees 15,000 crores to implement this mission in the coming 3 years. National Social Assistance Program provides financial assistance to the elderly, widows and persons with disabilities in the form of pensions. Sir, we have increased the coverage and amount of pensions under NSAP to improve income security for the vulnerable groups. Launched various online or offline programs are being conducted to provide skill training and certification to youth across India, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds. Various skill development programs and initiatives have been implemented to enhance employability and income opportunities. These initiatives aims to improve social services and support systems for the vulnerable communities in India.
Next question. Question number 102. Ms. Samriddhi, please.
माननीय स्पीकर, इस विषय में क्या ठोस कदम उठाए गए हैं हमें भी बताएं। क्या ग्राहकों के लिए प्लास्टिक प्रतिबंधन लागू है? ग्राहक अपने सामान को प्लास्टिक से लपेटने के लिए विवश क्यों है? उत्पादक एवं विक्रेताओं के लिए अविक्रमणीय प्लास्टिक लागू है? यदि हाँ तो ब्यौरा दीजिए। ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में प्लास्टिक अवशिष्टि से निपटने के लिए सरकार द्वारा क्या नियम बनाए गए हैं? समस्या के निवारण हेतु क्या नियम बनाए गए हैं और क्या कदम उठाए गए हैं बताने का कष्ट करें।
माननीय स्पीकर महोदय, नहीं, यह नियम विक्रेताओं के लिए भी अनिवार्य है। सरकार ने अवक्रमणीय प्लास्टिक को परिभाषित करते हुए प्लास्टिक अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन नियम 2016 अधिसूचित किया है। इन नियमों के अनुसार 50 माइक्रोन से कम मोटाई वाले प्लास्टिक का इस्तेमाल करना निषिद्ध है। विक्रेताओं को जैव निम्नीकरण प्लास्टिक का उपयोग करना अति अनिवार्य है। दूध, पानी और कोल्ड ड्रिंक को कांच की बोतलों में बेचा जाएगा। इन्हीं नियमों को लागू करने के लिए 6 महीने की अवधि दी गई है। तत्पश्चात 1 मार्च के बाद से मानदंड का पालन करना अनिवार्य है। प्लास्टिक अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन नियम 2016 के अनुसार खाद्य पदार्थ, औषध, पेयजल को पैक करने के लिए कैरी बैग, पैकेजिंग बैग इत्यादि हेतु मानदंड विनिर्दिष्ट किए गए हैं। अलग अलग क्षेत्र जैसे कि ग्रामीण और शहरी क्षेत्र के लिए भिन्न भिन्न मानदंड नहीं हैं। ग्राम पंचायतों के लिए यह अति आवश्यक बनता है कि वह अपने नियंत्रणाधीन क्षेत्र में अपशिष्ट प्लास्टिक का संचालन एवं समन्वय करें। ग्राम पंचायतों के लिए यह भी आवश्यक बनता है कि वह अपने नियंत्रणाधीन क्षेत्र में अपशिष्ट प्लास्टिक का पृथकीकरण, एकत्रण, भंडारण, धुलाई तथा पुनः योग्य अपशिष्ट प्लास्टिक को पुनः चक्रण कार्यकर्ताओं के पास भेजा जाना तथा अपने उत्तरदायित्वों के मध्य जागरूकता प्रदान करना सुनिश्चित करें।
Speaker sir, thank you. Will the Minister of Education be pleased to state what are the steps taken for the effective implementation of NEP in the school all over the country? What would be the impact of the concept of 3 years of preschooling or the Bal Vatika has been implemented in Kendriya Vidyalayas? Lack of proper infrastructure, improper teacher-pupil ratio, lack of skilled teaching faculty, etc. are hindrances in the effective implementation of the new education policy. What possible measures will be taken by the ministry to improve the given situations in the school across the country?
Minister of Education, Mr. R.
Sir, thank you. The new education policy envisages that the existing 10+2 structure in school education is modified with a new pedagogical and curricular restructuring of 5+3+3+4 covering ages 3 to 18 through the implementation of following points like reducing curriculum to enhance essential learning and critical thinking, experiential learning, empowering the students through flexibility in course choices, curricular integration of essential subjects, skills, and capacities, making national textbooks with local content and flavor, transforming assessment pattern for student development. It supports cognitive, social, and emotional development during critical formative years, prepares children for formal schooling, helping them adjust better to primary education, focuses on developing basic literacy and numeracy skills, fostering a love for learning. More budget allocation has been made for the development of infrastructure in schools, maintaining the class strength of the schools to the maximum of 30 students in class 1, and also restricting the intake of students in various classes, thereby maintaining the class strength at various levels. For improving the competencies of teaching faculty, we provide for a continuous professional development of 90 hours in an academic year, apart from the in-service training, catering to their professional development.
105, Ms. Vani, please.
माननीय स्पीकर महोदय, धन्यवाद। क्या उपभोक्ता मामले, खाद्य और सार्वजनिक वितरण मंत्री यह बताने की कृपा करेंगी कि प्लास्टिक बैग एवं उपकरणों का उपयोग तो प्रतिबंधित है, लेकिन लगता है कि प्लास्टिक का सेवन तो आमंत्रित है, पर्यावरण में मुक्त है, लेकिन हमारे पकवान प्लास्टिक से क्यों युक्त हैं? क्या सरकार को देश के विभिन्न भागों से चावल, अल्पाहार, पेय और अन्य खाद्य मदों में प्लास्टिक संबंधी कोई शिकायतें प्राप्त हुई हैं? यदि हाँ, तो तत्संबंधी ब्यौरा क्या है और इस संबंध में क्या कार्यवाही की गई है? सरकार द्वारा ऐसी हानिकारक मिश्रित खाद्य मदों की आपूर्ति जांच के लिए क्या कड़े कदम उठाए जा रहे हैं?
Minister of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, Ms. Jagriti, please.
आदरणीय स्पीकर महोदय, धन्यवाद। जी हाँ, प्लास्टिक के चावल, अंडों तथा प्लास्टिक के आटे के संबंध में उपभोक्ता मामले विभाग के अंतर्गत राष्ट्रीय उपभोक्ता हेल्पलाइन NCH पर शिकायतें प्राप्त हुई हैं। राष्ट्रीय उपभोक्ता हेल्पलाइन NCH द्वारा शिकायतकर्ताओं को यह परामर्श किया गया है कि वे अपनी शिकायतें भारतीय खाद्य सुरक्षा एवं मानक प्राधिकरण FSSAI को से करें। जुलाई 2017 के अंतर्गत राष्ट्रीय उपभोक्ता हेल्पलाइन NCH द्वारा अपने परामर्श सहित ये शिकायतें इन ग्राम पोर्टल के माध्यम से सीधे FSSAI को अग्रेषित की जा रही हैं। इसके अतिरिक्त FSSAI द्वारा गोवा, बिहार, गुजरात, दिल्ली इत्यादि राज्यों या संघ शासित क्षेत्रों के खाद्य पदार्थों के नमूने लिए जा रहे हैं और खाद्य व्यापार संचालकों के प्रांगणों के निरीक्षण किए जा रहे हैं। तथापि खाद्य सुरक्षा एवं मानक अधिनियम 2006 एवं उसके तहत बनाए गए नियमों एवं विनियमों की परिवर्तन की प्राथमिक जिम्मेदारी राज्य या संघ शासित क्षेत्रों के खाद्य सुरक्षा विभागों के अधिकारियों द्वारा खाद्य उत्पादों के यादृच्छिक नमूने लिए जा रहे हैं और जांच की जा रही है तथा जिन मामलों में खाद्य उत्पादों के नमूने अनुरूप नहीं पाए जाते उनमें खाद्य सुरक्षा एवं मानक अधिनियम 2006 के अध्याय 9 के दांडिक प्रावधानों के अनुसार कार्रवाई की जा रही है।
Next question. Question number 106. Ms. Swastika, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, thank you. Will the Honorable Minister of Finance be pleased to clarify the reason behind the shift towards the new tax regime from the old tax regime, even when the new tax regime offers fewer deductions and exemptions, which is a disadvantage for those who rely on them for tax savings. Middle income earners may not see any significant tax relief due to the structure of their new slabs compared to their previous deductions.
Minister of Finance, Mr. Adhoks, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, thank you. The new tax regime promotes a consumption-based economy, encouraging individuals to spend rather than save solely for the purpose of tax savings. By minimizing the emphasis on deductions, the new tax regime promotes a transparent, simpler, and fair tax systems, reducing the opportunities for tax evasions. Individuals can choose between these two regimes based on their financial situations. People with many deductions may benefit from the older regime, whereas people who prefer simplicity may opt for the newer regime. While considering, they must also consider their income level eligibility for deductions and personal financial goals. On the whole, the shift is a gradual process, aiming at reducing the burden of taxpayers. Reducing taxes may lead to a highly disposable income, stimulating consumption and contributing to an overall economic growth. These justifications reflect the government's intent to create an efficient, fair, and growth-oriented tax system.
107. Ms. Tendril, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, thank you. Will the Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change be pleased to state the measures taken by the government to ensure the reduction in the human-wildlife conflict, as there is an upsurge in the number of human casualties as well as negative impacts such as wildlife raiding crops, attacking livestock, damaging property, and often leading to loss of livelihood and exacerbation of poverty. I repeat, loss of livelihood and exacerbation of poverty, with special mentions to states such as Kerala, Karnataka, Assam, and Uttarakhand.
Minister of
Honorable Speaker, sir, 14 guidelines were released to address human-wildlife conflict, which aims to facilitate a common understanding among key stakeholders on what constitutes effective and efficient mitigation of HWC in India. These guidelines are advisory in nature, which will facilitate in future development of site-specific HWC mitigation in India. These guidelines are developed under the Indo-German Cooperation Project on HWC, which is being implemented by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. 4 guidelines on cross-cutting issues are guidelines on cooperation between forest and media sector, which will enhance the communication between the human-wildlife conflict mitigation, crowd management in the context of human-wildlife conflict mitigation, health safety in the context of human-wildlife conflict mitigation, addressing health emergencies and potential health risk arising out of human-wildlife conflict mitigation, taking a one-step approach. The development and intended implementation of these guidelines is driven by a harmonious coexistence approach to ensure that both humans and wild animals are protected from the negative impacts of HWC. This set of guidelines is not a static document. I repeat, this set of guidelines is not a static document. Rather, it's a living document where feedback from field practitioners and other wildlife experts is planned to analyze and access the specific elements and sections that need to undergo changes. Finally, a review of these guidelines is planned to take place every 5 years. I repeat, every 5 years from 2024.
बचपन में नशा है कि खेलने का, बुढ़ापे में नशा है कि भक्ति का, और माता पिताओं का नशा है कि उनके बच्चों का उज्जवल भविष्य का। लेकिन नशा सेवन ही हमारे अनेक युवक एवं छात्रों की दशा है। क्या सरकार का यह नशा है कि नशा मुक्त भारत के अभियान से ही हमारे देश के लोग नशे से मुक्त हो जाएंगे? क्या शपथ ग्रहण करने से ही हमारा देश नशे से मुक्त हो जाएगा? क्या नशे से मुक्त होने का सबूत है या सिर्फ प्रमाण पत्र? देश के भावी नेताओं को इस नशे के खतरे से बचाने के लिए सरकार का क्या प्रयास है?
Minister for Home Affairs, Ms. Anjana, please.
माननीय स्पीकर महोदय, धन्यवाद। नशे की गिरफ्त में यदि कोई आता है तो पहली निगरानी उसके परिवार से होनी चाहिए। परिवार द्वारा काउंसलर की मदद ली जा सकती है। समय पर उपचार और काउंसलिंग से समस्या का निदान संभव है। इसके लिए छात्रों के लिए विद्यालयों और कॉलेजों में काउंसलर की नियुक्ति अनिवार्य है। सरकारी अस्पतालों में भी काउंसलर नियुक्त हैं। नशीली दवाओं की समस्याओं से निपटने हेतु मौजूदा कानून एनडीपीसी अधिनियम में मादक पदार्थों से संबंधित अपराधों के लिए कठोर दंड प्रावधान है। सरकार द्वारा राजस्व खुफिया निदेशालय और सीमा शुल्क संस्थाओं का गठन भी किया गया है। इन संस्थाओं के द्वारा ली गई सख्त कार्रवाई से आप सब अवगत हैं। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सहयोग से मादक पदार्थों की तस्करी पर प्रभावी अंकुश लगाने के लिए गोल्डन क्रिसेंट और गोल्डन ट्रायंगल के साथ सहयोग को मजबूत किया जा रहा है। मादक पदार्थों की आवाजाही पर नजर रखने के लिए बिग डेटा और एनालिटिक्स एआई का उपयोग किया जा रहा है। नशा मुक्त अभियान से ही नागरिक जागरूक होंगे। नशीली दवाओं के लत और दुरुपयोग के खतरों के बारे में शिक्षा क्षेत्र और मीडिया के जरिए लोगों को जागरूक किया जा रहा है। आप और अपने संसद के सदस्य के परिवार से यह आग्रह है कि नशा से मुक्त रहने की शपथ लीजिए। प्रमाण पत्र भी ले लीजिएगा। हमारे प्रयास सख्त कार्यवाही की ओर अग्रसर हैं। विद्यालय के स्वास्थ्य परीक्षण के अंतर्गत छात्रों का डोप टेस्ट भी किया जाएगा। नौकरी के आवेदन के समय भी ये प्रमाण पत्र की अनिवार्यता तय की जाएगी। शिक्षा रूपी मंदिर में प्रवेश पाने के लिए भी प्रमाण पत्र अनिवार्य निर्धारित किया जाएगा। सबसे पहले हम सब पर लागू किया जाएगा। संसद में प्रवेश पाने के लिए टेस्ट लिया जाएगा। तैयार रहिएगा हमारे साथ नशा उन्मूलन के जवाब बनकर, ना कि प्रश्न चिन्ह।
Next question. Question number 110. Ms. Muntaha, please.
Be pleased to state whether the government has any concern regarding the depreciating value of Indian rupee against the US dollar, despite so-called rapid growth of Indian economy. What is the current account deficit due to declining rupee value?
Minister of Finance, Mr. Adhoks, please.
Honorable, the government has kept an eagle eye on the prevailing economic conditions. This includes the recent policy announcements, and the government of India imports more goods than it exports, leading to a trade imbalance or a trade deficit. Leading to a trade imbalance or a trade deficit. Trade imbalance or a trade deficit. The government of India has planned to increase foreign direct investments also. Exporters aren't able to bring enough dollars as they keep their foreign earnings abroad, and they expect the rupee value to fall even further. They demand even more dollars to convert their rupee assets into dollars and take it out. Such demand and supply gap between the dollar and the Indian rupee has led to the depreciating value of the Indian rupee. The current account deficit of India has reduced to $1.3 billion. I repeat, $1.3 billion, that is 0.2% of its GDP in the first quarter of the 2022-2023 session.
Please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. What are the steps taken by the Reserve Bank of India to control the falling rupee value?
Minister of Finance, Mr. Adhoks, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, the Reserve Bank of India has pulled up its socks to combat the falling rupee value. This includes recent policy announcements made by the RBI, and the rupee has sadly jumped 106 paise against the US dollar. The government has planned to increase foreign direct investments, and the Finance Ministry also plans to increase FII. The government also tends to increase FDI in various sectors, including the defense. It has already drafted a committee to review the ceilings in different sectors, and I assume the steps taken by the government will boost the inflow of foreign exchange.
Thank you. A healthy mind is like a GPS. Without it, you will wander aimlessly in the fog of life. Various sources, including government reports, academic studies, and surveys, indicate the rising incidence of mental health issues from 2022 to 24. The impact of COVID-19 pandemic, along with increasing awareness and reporting, has been contributed to the observed rise in mental health conditions. Will the Minister of Health and Family Welfare please outline the measures the government is taking to address the rising incidence of mental health issues among the youth in India and to improve access mental health care in rural areas?
Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. The Indian government has initiated several measures to address the rising incidence of mental health issues among youth. These measures span policy development, program implementation, and awareness campaigns. Here's a summary of the key steps being taken. Mental Health Care Act 2017 aims to provide mental health care and services to individuals and ensure their rights. It mandates the inclusion of mental health services within the general healthcare system. National Mental Health Program, launched in 1982, focuses on integrating mental health into primary health care and improving mental health services. The government is working to strengthen mental health services at the PHC level through National Health Mission. Campaigns such as Mental Health Awareness Week aims to educate public and promote mental well-being. Initiatives such as Asra and Snehi provides mental health support and crisis intervention through dedicated helplines. Expansion of telemedicine platform to provide remote mental health consultations and therapy, particularly beneficial for remote and rural areas. Deployment of mobile mental unit to deliver mental health services to underserved and remote areas. Utilization of the community health worker to provide basic mental health support, awareness, and referrals in rural communities. These measures reflect a comprehensive approach to addressing mental health issues among youth. Focuses on prevention, treatment, and stigma reduction. However, continued efforts and investments are necessary to effectively address the growing mental health needs of the population.
Ms. Samiksha, please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. Could the Minister detail the strategies being implemented to enhance mental health support services in educational institutions and combat the stigma surrounding mental health conditions?
Minister for Health.
When we prioritize mental health in children, we are not just addressing the problem, we are building a foundation for lifelong strength and happiness. The various strategies being implemented to enhance mental health support services within the educational institutions are National Initiative for School Heads and Teachers Holistic Advancement, NISHTA, include modules on mental health to train educators in recognizing and addressing mental health issues in students, implementing peer support program and mental health clubs in school to create a supportive environment and provide students with peer assistance. Sayog program by NCRT provides live interactive sessions for students on YouTube to provide guidance for promoting their mental well-being. These strategies aim to create a supportive environment for mental health within the educational institution, ensure that mental health services are accessible to rural populations as well, and reduce the stigma associated with the mental health condition. Each of these strategies plays a critical role in improving mental health outcomes and fostering a more inclusive and supportive society.
Been committed by the leading newspaper of Delhi. While commenting on the recommendation of Public Accounts Committee, the paper has attributed dishonest motives, and I request you to allow me to raise a question on that matter now.
Mr. Chintia, have you given notice of it earlier? You may give due notice along with a copy of the newspaper cutting, and I shall consider it. You cannot spring a surprise on me like this.
Yes, sir. I have already given a notice about it earlier today at 10 a.m.
It will be examined when it comes to me. Now, papers to be laid. Minister for Heavy Industries, Ms. Ritika, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I beg leave to lay on the table a copy of the following notification
Hindi and English version under subsection 3 of section 36 of Sikh Industrial Companies Special Provision Act 2004. The Board for Industrial and Financial Reconstruction, Financial and Administrative Power Rules 2023 were published in notification number GSR 68E, Gazette of India, dated 12 Jan 2024.
Mishwarya, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I wish to lay on the table a copy of the annual report of the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bengaluru, Hindi and English versions of the year 2023 to 24. A copy of the annual report of the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bengaluru of the year 2023 to 24, together with the audit report thereon. A statement regarding review by the government on the working of the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bengaluru of the year 2023 to 24. Thank you.
Secretary General to report the message received from the upper chamber of the Youth Parliament.
Message from the Secretary of the Upper Chamber of Youth Parliament. In accordance with the provisions of rules of procedures and conduct of business in the Upper Chamber of Youth Parliament, I am directed to enclose a copy of the Illegal Migrant Bill 2023 as passed by the Upper Chamber of Youth Parliament on the sitting held on 29 September 2023.
Secretary General to lay on the table a copy of the bill 2023 passed by the upper chamber.
Sir, I lay on the table of the House the Illegal Migrant Bill 2023 as passed by the upper chamber of Youth Parliament.
Honorable members, I have to make an announcement. On my behalf, and on behalf of the honorable members of the House, it is my pleasure in extending our warm welcome to the members of the Sri Lankan Parliament who are on a visit to India as our honoured guests. The honourable members of the delegation are Mr. Ajit Jayawardene, Deputy Speaker. The other member of the delegation is Mr. Adisha Yapa, who is not here today due to unavoidable circumstances. The delegation arrived on Thursday, 15th August 2024. They are now seated in the special box. We wish them a happy and a fruitful stay in our country. We also convey our warm greetings and very best wishes to the people of Sri Lanka and the Democratic Social Republic of Sri Lanka through the delegation. Now, let us take up the calling attention motion regarding the plight of the soldiers at the border. Srimati Ayushi, please.
I would like to call the attention of the Honorable Defence Minister to the unprecedented increase in the number of deaths of the soldiers posted at the borders due to cross-firing. Once a soldier, always a soldier. And our border troops are among the best in the world. Sir Speaker, with a heavy heart filled with grief and anxiety, that I beg leave to call the attention of the Defence Minister to the plight of the soldiers at the borders.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the government is aware about the state and conditions of our brave soldier. The government and in fact the entire nation is indebted to these soldiers who spend the best parts of their life away from the family, guarding the borders of our country so that the flag of our sovereign nation can continue to fly free. Sir, the government has implemented many steps to give them the best. But of course, the debt can never be repaid in full. But the families of the martyrs are paid appropriate financial compensation, and every help is provided to ensure that the family does not suffer. Besides, initiatives like Bharat Ke Veer is a website that encourages civilians to contribute to the well-being. And celebrities like Akshay Kumar are a great example that have always extended a very generous hand towards those families of those martyrs. So, the government has been doing everything to ensure their life and family, though it can never be the same.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I really have to thank the chair for giving me an opportunity to call the attention of Defence Minister for taking up a discussion regarding the condition that the soldiers face. The soldiers who are posted at the border are plagued not only by bad weather condition, but also intermittent firing from across the border. All of us are aware that there have been 325 ceasefire violations from across the border. The latest in the lines of casualties on July 12th have been 2 soldier members of an advance party of the army who were killed in an attack near the line of Jammu and Kashmir, Keren sector on Wednesday afternoon. The Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry soldiers were part of a 3-member scout team walking ahead of our main party patrolling the border area. In North Kashmir, heavy rain and hazy condition. When they came under fire, this ceasefire violation comes day after a deadly attack by Lashkar-e-Taiba on Amarnath Yatra that killed 27 pilgrims.
Srimati Sahana, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, here I would also like to add something in support of my colleague. On the 18th of July, 2 civilians were injured in firing at Poonch and a Jawan was again killed in firing at Rajouri. There have been 29 army fatalities in Jammu and Kashmir this year. Soldiers guarding the borders or on anti-terrorist operations. These are just couple of incidents stated. The families of these Shaheed soldiers bravely guarding the frontier of our motherland are bereft of a beloved family member and are left to fend for themselves. This kind of an unexpected death is especially brutal when the country is not in a state of declared war. Numerous civilians also lose their life in such kind of cross-firing. It is a wonder and something that puzzles the common Indians as to what the government is doing to put an end to this inhuman action. Hence, I would like to draw the attention of Honorable Minister to the fate of the family members of these Shaheed Jawans.
Prime Minister, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir. Honorable Speaker, sir. I wholeheartedly agree with my colleagues when they express grief and anxiety at the sudden and untimely demise of our Jawans in the cross-border firing. We accept that there have been violations. But India is a country known for its tolerance. We have been tolerating these infiltrations with patience, but have not kept totally quiet. As my honorable colleagues are aware, we undertook a surgical strike against our neighbors and have given them something to think about. Furthermore, in recent times also, the Indian forces have strongly retaliated to the mortar shelling from across the border of the state's Poonch region that killed 2 civilians. From across the border, a senior Indian diplomat was summoned to protest against the firing, but was bluntly told that the Indian forces have only responded appropriately to any such violation of the ceasefire. Recently, India's Director General of Military Operations, Lieutenant General Prateek Sharma, with an exchange over the hotline with his counterpart from across the border, made it implicit that the government is not unaware to the risk of the lives of its Jawans and is always ready to provide all the necessary help, be it monetary or otherwise. Thank you, Speaker.
Now, introduction of bill. Minister for Road Transport and Highways, Ms. Sharanya, please.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move for leave to introduce the National Road Safety and Traffic Management Board Bill 2023.
The question is that leave be granted to introduce a bill, the National Road Safety and Traffic Management Board Bill 2023. Those who are in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those who are against it, please say no. No. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Minister to introduce the bill.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I introduce the bill.
Now, the House will take up consideration of Information and Broadcasting Bill 2024. Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Ms. Shalini, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the bill is to empower the government to take measures to safeguard public interest and to prevent the transmission of content that is against national interest. The broadcasting involves the transmission of content for wider consumption by the public. This may include audio or visual content broadcasted over mediums such as televisions or radios. With evolving technologies, the broadcasting sector has evolved, and new mediums are now used to transmit content. A key concern is the differential treatment of the content aired over these platforms. The draft bill seeks to regulate all current forms of broadcast by regulating the broadcasters and broadcasting network operators. These include the content aired on cable televisions, radios, as well as OTT platforms. Therefore, with a view to enable scrutiny and to regulate the contents that are aired in public and national interest, the salient features of the bill are as follows. Broadcasters and broadcasting network operators must register, with each having a different registration process. News and current affair programs will be required to comply with the prescribed program code and advertisement code. Such programs are defined as newly received or noteworthy audio. Any program will be broadcasted only after the certification by the Content Evaluation Committee. The CEC will comprise of eminent persons from various social groups such as women, child welfare, and scheduled castes. The bill provides for a self-regulatory structure for complying with the program code and advertisement code, which will be prescribed by the central government. The draft bill specifies various offences and penalties. Penalties against registered entities will be based on their size, which will be determined as per their turnover and investments. Offences such as operating broadcasting networks without registration or obtaining registration by misrepresentation or furnishing incorrect information are punishable with a fine, imprisonment, or both. Speaker, sir, I am confident that all the honorable members of the House, irrespective of party affiliation, will welcome the bill wholeheartedly, through it provides quality media content safeguarding public and national interest mentioned in the bill. With these words, I now move the Information and Broadcasting Bill 2024 to be taken into consideration.
Motion moved that the bill will improve the content of broadcasting content of our country. Shrimati Saloni, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, the bill creates a three-tier regulatory mechanism to ensure that broadcasters comply with program code and advertisement code. The first tier comprises self-regulation by individual broadcaster and broadcasting network operators. The second includes forming self-regulatory organization, SROs, of broadcasters and broadcasting network operators. The third involves a Broadcast Advisory Council, BAC, that will hear the complaints or violations of the code arising out of the appeal against the SROs. All the regulatory mechanisms will ensure that the objective of bill is attained. Therefore, I support the idea of bringing of such a bill. Thank you.
Shrimati Rachana, please.
Sir, thank you. I would like to impart the mixed feelings regarding the implementation of the bill, as the following prevalent conditions in our economy will hinder the effective implementation of the bill, such as the bill regulates online content on OTT platforms. However, such content may be accessed through different means on the internet, which is regulated differently. No guidance has been provided on formulating the program code. This may lead to self-censorship by broadcasters. The central government will also have the powers to pass orders on certain content that violates the program code. This includes content or news critical of the government. This could lead to conflict of interest. The draft bill also does not provide an appellate mechanism against the orders of the central government. The proposed framework for regulating broadcast news is distinct from that of print news. This raises a question on whether it is appropriate to have differential framework for same content based on the medium of dissemination. The bill also reintroduces some criminal punishments for certain offences which were recently decriminalized. Due to the above reasons, I fear the successful implementation of the bill.
Srimati Shehnaz, please.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I would like to express my concerns over the successful implementation of the bill. The Supreme Court in 1995 has held that broadcasting is a means of communication and is therefore a medium of speech and expression. It can be restricted only on the grounds specified in Article 19, which includes security of state, public order, decency and morality, defamation, or incitement to an offense. The absence of clear standard for regulating content may lead to a self-censorship by the broadcasters. This may lead to a chilling effect on the freedom of speech and expression. Thank you.
Speaker, sir, I would like to enlighten the following facts. The bill provides that any program transmitted as a broadcasting service must be in conformity with the program code. This code will be prescribed by the central government. The code may be differentiated for various types of broadcasting services such as linear, on-demand or radio broadcasting. The restrictions prescribed under the current program code include offending good taste or decency and false and suggestive innuendos or half-truths. However, I assure you all that the central government shall not compromise with the interest of public and nation. I hope I have clarified the apprehensions in the minds of the members in the course of my speech. I once again thank you all for your support and seek your cooperation in the implementation of this measure. I request the House to pass the bill.
The question is that the information and broadcasting and matters connected therewith or incidental thereto will be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those who are against it, please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Now, let us take up clause by clause consideration. Now the question is that clause 2 to 5 stand part of the bill. There is one amendment in clause 3. Srimati Shehnaz, are you moving it?
No, sir. In the views of the replies given by the minister, I am not pressing my amendment.
Now, the question is that clause 2 to 5 stand part of the bill. Those who are in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those who are against it, please say no. No. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Now, the clause 1, the enacting formula and title stand part of the bill. Those who are in favor, will please say aye. Aye. Those who are against it, please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Now, the Parliament is adjourned for today. We will meet again at 11 a.m. tomorrow.
अब मैं सभी से अनुरोध करती हूँ कि भोजन के लिए प्रस्थान करें और मैं मजलिस टीम से रिक्वेस्ट करती हूँ कि वह प्रिपेयर रहे और सबसे पहले वो भोजन ग्रहण करें। 1 बजे से 2 बजे तक भोजन अवकाश है, उसके बाद हम सभी को यहीं पर एकत्रित होना है, ठीक है? हाँ, एग्जैक्ट 2 o'clock यहाँ पर आ जाना है सबको।